Hey there, folks. We're back to dive into some awesome stories from the past on our History channel.
Mahatma Gandhi, born on October 2, 1869, was a key leader in India's fight for independence from British colonial rule. He championed nonviolent resistance, known as Satyagraha, and inspired movements for civil rights and justice worldwide. His legacy as a symbol of peaceful activism and unwavering dedication to truth endures to this day. Early life and education, 1869 to 1888. The life and legacy of Mahatma Gandhi, the preeminent leader of India's struggle for independence from British colonial rule, are deeply rooted in his early experiences and education. Born on October 2, 1869, in the serene coastal town of Porbandar, situated in the western Indian state of Gujarat, Gandhi's journey towards becoming the icon of nonviolent resistance, truth, and justice began in the heart of this modest and culturally rich region. Gandhi was born into the Vaishya caste, traditionally associated with merchants and traders in the Indian caste system. His family background was decidedly middle class, with his father, Karamchand Gandhi, occupying the esteemed position of Diwan, or Prime Minister, in Porbandar. This familial connection to governance and leadership would later serve as an influence on Gandhi's own trajectory. The early years of Gandhi's life were marked by the nurturing embrace of his parents and the close-knit community of Porbandar. His mother, Putlibai, played a pivotal role in instilling values of compassion, honesty, and spirituality in her young son. These early teachings would go on to shape Gandhi's ethical and moral outlook, profoundly impacting his approach to leadership and activism. Gandhi's formal education commenced in Porbandar itself, where he was introduced to the foundational concepts of literature, mathematics, and history. As a young boy, he exhibited a penchant for learning and a keen sense of curiosity about the world. It was during these formative years that his nascent intellectual and moral faculties began to develop, laying the groundwork for his future endeavors. Subsequently, Gandhi moved to the nearby city of Rajkot to pursue further studies. This shift marked an important phase in his life, as it exposed him to a more diverse and cosmopolitan environment. It was here that he continued his education, deepening his understanding of various subjects, including history and the social sciences. These academic pursuits provided Gandhi with a broader perspective on the world, fostering a growing awareness of the prevailing socio-political realities of colonial India. The early years of Gandhi's life, spent in the nurturing cocoon of Porbandar and Rajkot, served as a crucible for his character, imbuing him with a sense of duty, integrity, and a commitment to truth that would become the cornerstones of his later activism. These formative experiences, combined with his burgeoning intellectual curiosity, set the stage for the extraordinary journey that would define his role as a nonviolent freedom fighter and a symbol of resistance against oppression. Journey to England and Law Studies, 1888 to 1891. The year 1888 marked a pivotal juncture in the life of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, setting in motion a series of events that would ultimately shape the destiny of a man who would become known to the world as Mahatma Gandhi. It was in this year that a young Gandhi embarked on a momentous journey, leaving behind the shores of his native India for the distant land of England, a voyage that was to have profound and lasting consequences. The primary objective of this sojourn was clear and unwavering. Gandhi aspired to pursue a legal education in England, ultimately seeking to become a barrister. His decision to undertake such a formidable venture was indicative of both his determination and his intellectual ambition. Armed with a deep-rooted sense of justice and a growing awareness of the socio-political issues plaguing India under British colonial rule, Gandhi recognized that a legal education could be a powerful tool for advocacy and social change. Upon his arrival in England, Gandhi found himself immersed in a culture that was markedly different from the one he had known in India. The Western world, with its distinct customs, social norms, and educational institutions, presented a stark contrast to the environment he had grown up in. This exposure to a new and unfamiliar way of life would, in time, shape his perspective and broaden his horizons. Crucially, Gandhi's years in England were not solely focused on legal studies. They also served as a profound period of personal growth and intellectual exploration. His time in England became a crucible for the development of his philosophical outlook, centered on the principles of truth, integrity, and ethics. These values, deeply embedded in the fabric of Western thought, began to resonate with Gandhi's own evolving sense of morality. During this period, Gandhi displayed an insatiable intellectual curiosity, which led him to explore various religions and philosophies. He delved into the teachings of Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism, seeking to glean wisdom from each. This eclecticism in his spiritual pursuits would later contribute to the unique and inclusive philosophy that underpinned his approach to nonviolent resistance, known as Satyagraha. The significance of Gandhi's sojourn in England extends far beyond the acquisition of a legal education. It was a transformative phase in his life, during which he not only honed his legal acumen, but also cultivated a deeper understanding of human nature, culture, and morality. The values of truth, integrity, and ethics that he absorbed during his time in England would serve as the bedrock of his subsequent activism and his unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance. Early experiences in South Africa, 1893 to 1914. The year 1893 marked a significant turning point in the life of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, as he embarked on a journey that would profoundly shape his philosophy and his role as a leader in the struggle for justice and equality. It was during this pivotal year that Gandhi accepted a job offer in South Africa, a decision that would expose him to the harsh realities of racial discrimination and galvanize his nascent activism. Gandhi's arrival in South Africa was initially motivated by his legal career. He had been contracted to work as a lawyer, representing Indian merchants and immigrants in legal matters. Little did he know that this move, prompted by professional aspirations, would lead to a profound transformation in his outlook and convictions. South Africa, at the time, was a complex and racially divided society, deeply entrenched in the throes of colonialism and apartheid-like policies. The Indian community, consisting mainly of laborers and traders, faced systematic discrimination and segregation at the hands of the British colonial authorities and the white South African population. This pervasive inequality was a stark contrast to the relatively harmonious coexistence of diverse communities that Gandhi had experienced in India. It was in this cauldron of racial tension and injustice that Gandhi first encountered the brutal realities of discrimination. His own experiences of being subjected to racial slurs and being forcibly removed from a first-class train carriage due to his Indian heritage left an indelible mark on him. This deeply personal encounter with discrimination became a catalyst for his transformation from a legal practitioner to a fervent advocate for civil rights and social justice. Gandhi's activism in South Africa took various forms. He started by petitioning for the rights of the Indian community and challenging the discriminatory laws that targeted them. His methods of protest were largely peaceful, involving letter-writing campaigns and legal challenges. However, it was during this period that the seeds of his philosophy of nonviolent resistance, or Satyagraha, began to take root. As Gandhi's activism intensified, he organized various campaigns and protests, including strikes and marches, to highlight the injustices faced by the Indian community. These actions not only brought the issues of racial discrimination to the forefront, but also showcased his growing commitment to nonviolent civil disobedience as a means of achieving social change. The years in South Africa were transformative for Gandhi. His experiences of discrimination and the resilience of the Indian community in the face of adversity deeply impacted his worldview. It was during this period that he crystallized his belief in the power of truth, nonviolence, and civil disobedience as tools for social and political transformation. These principles would become the cornerstone of his activism, not only in South Africa, but also upon his return to India, where he would lead the struggle for independence against British colonial rule. Development of Satyagraha, 1906 to 1914. The crucible of South Africa, where Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi resided from 1893 to 1914, witnessed the development and crystallization of a transformative philosophy that would come to define not only his own activism, but also serve as a guiding light for generations of social and political movements worldwide. This philosophy, known as Satyagraha, emerged as a powerful tool of nonviolent resistance, rooted in truth and marked by the practice of civil disobedience. The journey toward the development of Satyagraha during this period is a testament to Gandhi's intellectual and moral evolution. At its core, Satyagraha can be understood as the fusion of two Sanskrit words, satya, meaning truth, and agraha, meaning insistence or holding firmly to. This fusion encapsulates the essence of Gandhi's philosophy, which rested on the unwavering commitment to truth and the refusal to submit to injustice through nonviolent means. Gandhi's early experiences in South Africa, particularly his encounters with racial discrimination and injustice, played a pivotal role in the genesis of Satyagraha. It was in the face of these injustices that he first experimented with forms of nonviolent resistance, believing that passive resistance, grounded in truth, could be a powerful weapon against oppression. The principles of Satyagraha were not mere abstractions but were forged through practical engagement with the oppressive structures of his time. Gandhi initiated campaigns and protests that were marked by their nonviolent character. These actions were underpinned by a deep conviction in the righteousness of their cause and the power of truth to ultimately prevail. One of the earliest manifestations of Satyagraha was the campaign against the Asiatic Registration Act in 1906, which required all Indians in South Africa to register and carry identity cards. Gandhi, along with a growing number of supporters, embarked on a campaign of nonviolent resistance against this unjust law. They refused to register and willingly faced imprisonment and other forms of persecution. This campaign marked the formal inception of Satyagraha as a strategy of protest. Central to Satyagraha was the idea that individuals could resist oppression without resorting to violence. This required a profound inner transformation and moral courage. Gandhi emphasized the importance of self-discipline, self-purification, and the willingness to suffer for a just cause. He believed that this form of resistance had the power to awaken the moral conscience of oppressors and create a groundswell of public opinion in favor of justice. Satyagraha's evolution was not a linear process. It was marked by experimentation and adaptation. Gandhi continually refined and expanded its principles, incorporating elements such as constructive work and non-cooperation with oppressive systems. As the years passed, Satyagraha gained momentum, drawing more people into the fold of nonviolent resistance. Gandhi's leadership and unwavering commitment to truth and justice made him a figurehead of moral authority not only in South Africa but across the world. His philosophy inspired countless individuals and movements, from the American civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. to anti-colonial struggles in India and beyond. Return to India and early activism, 1915 to 1920. The return of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to his homeland in 1915 marked a significant moment in the history of India's struggle for independence and heralded the arrival of a leader who would go on to shape the destiny of a nation. Gandhi's homecoming, after spending over 2 decades in South Africa, was met with anticipation and curiosity, for he brought with him not only the wisdom gained from his experiences, but also a potent philosophy of nonviolent resistance, Satyagraha. Gandhi's decision to join the Indian National Congress, INC, upon his return was a momentous step that aligned him with the political aspirations of his compatriots. The INC, under the leadership of prominent figures like Dadabhai Naoroji and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, was at the forefront of the struggle for India's self-rule. Gandhi's arrival infused new energy and a unique approach into the movement. His initial forays into Indian activism were multifaceted, reflecting his commitment to addressing a wide range of issues. One of his earliest endeavors was in Champaran, Bihar, where he led a campaign against the oppressive indigo planters. This marked the beginning of his engagement with issues related to rural India, where he actively worked to ameliorate the conditions of impoverished peasants and promote their rights. Gandhi's emphasis on economic self-sufficiency and self-reliance found expression in his advocacy for the revival of cottage industries, particularly the spinning wheel or charkha. He saw this as a means to empower India's rural population, provide economic independence, and reduce dependence on British manufactured goods. His simple act of spinning cotton became symbolic of the broader movement for economic independence. His work in Ahmedabad, where he set up the Sabarmati Ashram as a center for Satyagraha, exemplified his commitment to communal living and the pursuit of truth. The ashram became a crucible for experiments in simple living, manual labor, and social reform. Gandhi's approach to activism was marked by his unwavering commitment to nonviolence and his belief in the power of civil disobedience as a means of achieving social and political change. He led various protests and movements, including the Kheda and Bardoli Satyagrahas, where he advocated for the rights of peasants facing oppressive taxation. The year 1919 witnessed a turning point in India's struggle for independence with the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar, where British troops under General Dyer indiscriminately opened fire on a peaceful gathering of Indian protesters. Gandhi responded with the non-cooperation movement, a nationwide campaign aimed at boycotting British institutions, products, and symbols of authority. This marked a significant escalation in the struggle for freedom, and millions of Indians joined the movement. The return of Mahatma Gandhi to India and his early activism profoundly shaped the trajectory of the independence movement. His commitment to civil rights, economic self-sufficiency, and home rule resonated with people from all walks of life. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance, deeply rooted in Satyagraha, inspired a generation of leaders and activists who saw in him a beacon of hope and a symbol of moral authority. The Non-Cooperation Movement, 1920 to 1922. The non-cooperation movement of 1920 to 1922, under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, stands as one of the most significant and transformative chapters in the history of India's struggle for independence. This movement, marked by its call for the boycott of British goods and institutions, ushered in a new era of mass mobilization and civil disobedience that would profoundly impact the course of India's fight for self-rule. At the heart of the non-cooperation movement was Gandhi's unwavering belief in the power of nonviolence as a means of achieving political and social change. He saw nonviolent resistance, or Satyagraha, as a potent weapon that could pierce the armor of British colonialism and awaken the moral conscience of both Indians and the British rulers. The trigger for the non-cooperation movement was the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of April 1919, where British troops, under the command of General Dyer, opened fire on a peaceful gathering in Amritsar, resulting in hundreds of casualties. This brutal act galvanized widespread outrage and served as a catalyst for Gandhi's call to action. Gandhi, in a characteristically calculated and strategic move, announced the non-cooperation movement in 1920. The central pillars of this movement were the boycott of British goods, institutions, and titles, as well as the non-payment of taxes to the British government. These measures were aimed at hitting the British colonial administration economically and politically. One of the most visible aspects of the non-cooperation movement was the boycott of British-made goods. Indians, under Gandhi's guidance, began to discard foreign cloth in favor of hand-spun khedi. This seemingly simple act of spinning and wearing khedi became a powerful symbol of self-sufficiency, economic independence, and resistance to British imperialism. Millions of Indians embraced khedi, and its popularity surged as a form of protest. The boycott extended beyond consumer goods. Indians began to boycott British educational institutions, the civil service, and titles and honors bestowed by the British Crown. This was a direct challenge to the legitimacy of British rule and the colonial system itself. The renunciation of British titles and honors was a poignant symbol of Indian rejection of the trappings of colonial power. Simultaneously, the non-cooperation movement encouraged Indians to refuse cooperation with the British authorities. This included nonviolent protests, strikes, and demonstrations, often met with harsh repression by the British colonial government. The spirit of civil disobedience began to sweep across the nation, transcending regional, linguistic, and religious boundaries. The impact of the non-cooperation movement was profound. Millions of Indians from diverse backgrounds participated in acts of civil disobedience, and the movement enjoyed wide support. It marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence, as it demonstrated the power of mass mobilization and nonviolent resistance as effective tools against colonial rule. However, the movement also faced challenges. There were instances of violence and clashes between protesters and the police. Additionally, the Chauri Chaura incident in 1922, where a police station was set on fire by protesters, led Gandhi to suspend the non-cooperation movement as he felt that nonviolence was losing its hold on the masses. The Salt March and Civil Disobedience, 1930 to 1934. The Salt March of 1930, a monumental event in the history of India's struggle for independence, marked the zenith of Mahatma Gandhi's leadership and exemplified the power of nonviolent resistance as a means of achieving political and social change. This extraordinary march, which culminated in the symbolic act of making salt by the shores of the Arabian Sea, resonated with millions of Indians and shook the foundations of British colonial rule. By 1930, India had endured decades of British colonial oppression, economic exploitation, and racial discrimination. The imposition of exorbitant taxes on salt, an essential commodity for everyday life, was a particularly poignant symbol of British exploitation. Indians were forced to purchase salt from the British government at prices they could ill afford. The Salt Act of 1882 further exacerbated this injustice, making it illegal for Indians to collect or manufacture salt independently. Mahatma Gandhi recognized the salt tax as a symbol of British tyranny and an issue that could galvanize the masses. He believed that a campaign centered on salt would be a powerful way to mobilize people across India, transcending regional, linguistic, and religious differences. On March 12, 1930, Gandhi embarked on a momentous journey from Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, with a small group of followers. This march, which would later become known as the Salt March or Dandi March, covered a distance of approximately 240 miles, 386 kilometers, to the coastal town of Dandi on the Arabian Sea. It was a journey undertaken on foot, symbolizing the simplicity and self-sufficiency that Gandhi espoused. The march attracted widespread attention and garnered support from across India. As Gandhi and his followers progressed, their numbers swelled, and the march became a moving spectacle of unity and determination. Thousands joined the procession along the way, including people from various walks of life, from farmers to students to laborers. The Salt March transcended caste and class distinctions, emphasizing the universality of the cause. Upon reaching Dandi on April 6, 1930, Gandhi symbolically violated the Salt Act by picking up a lump of natural salt from the shore. This seemingly simple act carried profound significance. It was a declaration of defiance against British salt laws and a call to civil disobedience. Gandhi's words, "I am shaking the foundations of the British Empire," reverberated throughout India and beyond. The Salt March ignited a wave of civil disobedience across the country. Indians began to defy the salt tax by making their own salt, often facing brutal repression by the British authorities. The movement gained momentum, and salt depots and factories were boycotted. Mass demonstrations and protests erupted in various parts of India, challenging the legitimacy of British rule. The British response to the civil disobedience was marked by arrests and violence. Gandhi himself was arrested on May 5, 1930, But this did not deter the movement. As news of the SALT protests spread, international sympathy for India's cause grew, and pressure mounted on the British government to address the grievances of the Indian people. The SALT March and the subsequent civil disobedience campaigns of 1930 to 1934 were defining moments in the struggle for independence. They demonstrated the power of nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience in confronting oppressive colonial rule. The movement united diverse communities and laid bare the moral bankruptcy of British imperialism. Negotiations and Independence, 1942 to 1947. The period from 1942 to 1947 represents a crucial juncture in the history of India's struggle for independence, marked by negotiations between the Indian National Congress and the British government that ultimately led to the long-awaited promise of freedom. However, this promise was realized with the painful partition of India into two separate nations, India and Pakistan, a development that unleashed immense communal violence and left a lasting legacy of both hope and trauma. By the early 1940s, the world was engulfed in the throes of World War I. India's role in the war, coupled with mounting pressure from Indian leaders, had brought the question of India's future governance to the forefront of British politics. The Indian National Congress, led by figures such as Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Patel, demanded a swift transition to self-rule in exchange for Indian support in the war effort. Simultaneously, the Muslim League, under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, intensified its demand for a separate Muslim state. In 1942, against the backdrop of global conflict and growing demands for independence, the Quit India movement was launched by the Indian National Congress. Mahatma Gandhi issued the famous Quit India call, demanding an immediate end to British rule and the transfer of power to Indians. The movement saw widespread civil disobedience, protests, and strikes across the country. The British responded with mass arrests of Congress leaders, including Gandhi. World War II further strained British resources and undermined their ability to maintain colonial control. The British government, realizing the urgency of addressing India's political aspirations, initiated negotiations with Indian leaders. In 1946, a British cabinet mission, led by Sir Stafford Cripps, arrived in India to propose a plan for constitutional reforms and the transfer of power. The cabinet mission plan sought to accommodate the demands of both the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. It proposed the creation of a united federal India with a weak center and the option for provinces to group together based on linguistic and regional lines. However, the plan faced vehement opposition from the Muslim League, which sought a separate Muslim state. As negotiations continued, communal tensions escalated. The Direct Action Day on August 16, 1946, called by the Muslim League, resulted in violent communal riots in Calcutta, now Kolkata, and elsewhere. This event underscored the deep religious and communal divisions within India and foreshadowed the horrors of partition. In February 1947, realizing the impossibility of reconciling the differences between the Congress and the Muslim League, the British government announced its intention to withdraw from India and transfer power. Lord Louis Mountbatten was appointed as the last Viceroy of India, charged with overseeing the process of partition and independence. On August 15, 1947, India finally gained its long-awaited independence. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, delivered a historic speech on the eve of independence, emphasizing the values of democracy, secularism, and social justice. However, this joyous moment was marred by the traumatic partition of India into two separate nations, India and Pakistan, based on religious lines. The partition was accompanied by unprecedented communal violence and displacement. Millions of people were uprooted from their homes, and hundreds of thousands lost their lives in the violence that erupted along religious lines. The pain and trauma of partition continue to cast a long shadow over the subcontinent's history. Legacy and Assassination, 1948. The legacy of Mahatma Gandhi, whose life and philosophy continue to resonate with people worldwide, is a testament to the enduring power of nonviolence, truth, and moral leadership. Gandhi's commitment to these principles, encapsulated in his philosophy of Satyagraha, had a profound and far-reaching impact on the course of history, not only in India but across the globe. Gandhi's philosophy of Satyagraha, which can be translated as truth force or soul force, was the guiding light of his activism and leadership. It emphasized the moral and spiritual dimensions of nonviolent resistance. At its core, Satyagraha was a belief in the inherent goodness of humanity and the capacity of individuals to change through moral persuasion rather than coercion or violence. This philosophy formed the bedrock of Gandhi's approach to political and social change. One of the most remarkable aspects of Gandhi's legacy was his unwavering commitment to nonviolence as a means of achieving political and social change. He demonstrated the transformative power of nonviolence through various movements, including the Salt March, the Quit India movement, and countless acts of civil disobedience. His steadfast adherence to nonviolence, even in the face of brutal repression, inspired generations of activists and leaders worldwide, including Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Gandhi's influence extended beyond the realms of politics. His advocacy for social justice, communal harmony, and economic self-sufficiency left a lasting imprint on India's post-independence development. He championed the cause of the marginalized and the oppressed, including the Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, and worked tirelessly to eradicate the scourge of untouchability. Economically, Gandhi's promotion of cottage industries and his emphasis on self-reliance and sustainability laid the foundation for India's pursuit of economic independence after gaining freedom from colonial rule. His advocacy for the use of khadi, hand-spun and hand-woven cloth, symbolized self-sufficiency and the empowerment of rural India. Gandhi's legacy also extends to his efforts to promote communal harmony and religious tolerance. He believed in the principle of sarvodaya, or the welfare of all, and worked to bridge religious divides. His insistence on nonviolence as a means to resolve religious and communal conflicts remains relevant in a world marked by religious tensions. Despite the transformative impact of his teachings and activism, Gandhi's life was tragically cut short on January 30, 1948, when he was assassinated by Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist who disagreed with Gandhi's views on partition and his approach to communal issues. Gandhi's assassination shocked the world and plunged India into mourning. In conclusion, Mahatma Gandhi's legacy is multifaceted and enduring. His philosophy of Satyagraha, commitment to nonviolence, advocacy for social justice, economic self-sufficiency, and communal harmony continue to inspire individuals and movements committed to justice and peace. His life and teachings remain a source of moral guidance and a testament to the power of the human spirit to effect positive change through nonviolent means. While his physical presence may have been extinguished, the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi continues to illuminate the path toward a more just and compassionate world. More information and facts. Experiments with diet and fasting. Gandhi's experiments with diet and fasting were not mere personal eccentricities. They were profound reflections of his deeply held principles of simplicity, self-discipline, and nonviolence. These experiments, which he undertook throughout his life, not only shaped his physical well-being, but also became powerful symbols of his spiritual and political journey. Gandhi's approach to diet was rooted in his belief in the interconnectedness of body, mind, and soul. He viewed food not just as sustenance, but as a means to cultivate self-control and align one's actions with moral values. His dietary choices were guided by a strict code of ethics, and he continually sought to simplify his diet to align it with his principles. One of Gandhi's earliest dietary experiments was his adoption of a vegetarian lifestyle while still in England as a law student. This choice was influenced by his readings of Henry Salt's book, A Plea for Vegetarianism, and his vow to abstain from eating meat for the rest of his life. For Gandhi, vegetarianism was a moral stance, driven by his empathy for all living creatures. As he delved deeper into his experiments, Gandhi took the path of reducing his food intake. He adopted a frugal diet, often referred to as nature cure, which consisted of simple, unprocessed foods such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. He believed that moderation in eating was essential to maintain both physical health and spiritual well-being. Fasting, however, was perhaps the most powerful tool in Gandhi's arsenal of self-discipline and nonviolent resistance. He viewed fasting not as a means of coercion, but as a form of self-purification and moral pressure. Gandhi's fasts were not hunger strikes. They were acts of self-sacrifice, designed to evoke a moral response in others and bring about positive change. One of the most famous instances of Gandhi's fasting was during the 1932 communal riots in Pune. Distressed by the violence between Hindus and Muslims, he embarked on a fast unto death to demand an end to the bloodshed. His fast not only compelled the warring factions to cease hostilities, but also served as a powerful reminder of the moral responsibility of all communities to maintain peace and harmony. Another notable fast was during the protest against the British decision to segregate the untouchables in separate electorates in 1932. Gandhi went on a hunger strike to protest this division and to advocate for the rights and dignity of the Dalits. The fast ultimately led to the signing of the Pune Pact, a significant milestone in the struggle against untouchability. Perhaps the most extraordinary fasting episode was Gandhi's 21-day fast in 1943, undertaken during the Bengal famine. His fast drew attention to the plight of the starving population and galvanized relief efforts. Gandhi's fast was instrumental in mobilizing resources and assistance for the famine-stricken. In all his experiments with diet and fasting, Gandhi's message was clear. Simplicity, self-discipline, and nonviolence were intertwined principles that could guide both personal conduct and collective action. His life and choices served as a living example of how an individual's relationship with food could reflect their commitment to higher moral ideals. For Gandhi, the path to truth and nonviolence was paved not just with words, but also with the choices he made at the dining table and in the acts of fasting for justice and peace. Women in Gandhi's movement. The role of women in Gandhi's movements was not only pivotal but also emblematic of the inclusive and progressive nature of his vision for India's struggle for independence. Throughout the tumultuous years of the freedom struggle, numerous women leaders emerged as potent forces for change, playing significant roles alongside male counterparts. Prominent figures such as Kasturba Gandhi, Sarojini Naidu, and Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay left an indelible mark on India's journey to freedom. Kasturba Gandhi, fondly known as Ba, was not just the wife of Mahatma Gandhi, but a formidable activist in her own right. She shared Gandhi's commitment to truth and nonviolence and was a devoted partner in his social and political experiments. Kasturba played a vital role in mobilizing women and raising their consciousness about their rights and responsibilities. She participated in numerous Satyagrahas and civil disobedience movements alongside her husband, enduring imprisonment and hardship. Her leadership inspired many women to take an active role in the struggle for independence. Sarojini Naidu, often referred to as the Nightingale of India, was a poet, freedom fighter, and the first woman to become the president of the Indian National Congress. Her eloquent speeches and poetry served as powerful tools in the fight against colonial rule. Naidu was an advocate for civil rights and women's suffrage, and she played a crucial role in the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. Her leadership transcended gender barriers and inspired generations of women to participate in the struggle for independence. Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay, a multifaceted leader, was instrumental in promoting indigenous handicrafts, culture, and women's rights. She was a staunch supporter of Gandhi's vision for rural self-sufficiency and was actively involved in the constructive program. Kamaladevi played a crucial role in the Indian National Congress and was part of the delegation that met with British officials to demand independence. She also contributed significantly to the promotion of traditional Indian arts and crafts, emphasizing their economic and cultural importance. Apart from these notable leaders, countless ordinary women across India actively participated in the freedom movement. They joined protests, marches, and boycotts, often in the face of significant personal risks. Women's involvement in the struggle was not limited to urban areas, but extended to rural communities where they played essential roles in the nonviolent resistance against colonial oppression. Gandhi recognized the indispensable role of women in the struggle for independence, and through his actions and writings, consistently advocated for their empowerment and inclusion. He believed that women's involvement was vital not only for India's political liberation, but also for its social and moral transformation. Challenges and criticisms. The life and leadership of Mahatma Gandhi were marked not only by remarkable achievements, but also by challenges and criticisms from various quarters. While he is revered as the father of the nation in India and celebrated globally for his philosophy of nonviolence, Gandhi's methods faced scrutiny, and his political disagreements with fellow leaders, like Subhash Chandra Bose, offer a nuanced perspective on his leadership. Criticism of Gandhi's methods. Critique of nonviolence. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence, or ahimsa, was at the core of his approach to social and political change. However, some critics argued that nonviolence was too passive and slow in the face of British colonial oppression. They believed that more aggressive and militant methods would achieve independence more swiftly. Criticism from within the Congress. Even within the Indian National Congress, Gandhi faced dissent from leaders who advocated for different approaches to achieving independence. Some Congress members believed in collaboration with the British, while others favored more radical tactics. Economic critique. Gandhi's emphasis on economic self-sufficiency and his promotion of hand-spun Khadi cloth faced opposition from those who saw industrialization and modernization as essential for India's progress. They argued that his focus on cottage industries and handmade goods hindered economic development. Critique of religious symbolism. Gandhi's use of religious symbols, such as Hindu rituals and fasting, in his political campaigns was criticized by some as regressive or divisive, particularly in a religiously diverse country like India. Political disagreements with Subhash Chandra Bose. One of the most significant political disagreements within the Indian National Congress was between Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose, a charismatic leader known for his more militant approach to achieving independence. Bose believed that direct confrontation with the British was necessary, even if it meant seeking help from other foreign powers like Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan during World War I. This approach sharply contrasted with Gandhi's principle of nonviolence and cooperation with the British in the war effort. The conflict between Gandhi and Bose led to Bose's resignation from the Congress presidency in 1939. Bose later formed the Forward Bloc, which advocated for a more aggressive stance in seeking independence. While Bose's actions and alliances during this period remained controversial, his differences with Gandhi represented a significant challenge to the unity of the independence movement. However, it is essential to note that despite these criticisms and differences, Gandhi's leadership continued to command respect and admiration from a vast majority of Indians. His ability to mobilize millions through nonviolent civil disobedience and his unwavering commitment to moral principles inspired people both within and outside of India. Gandhi's leadership played a pivotal role in shaping the course of India's struggle for independence and ultimately led to the end of British colonial rule in 1947. Global influence. Mahatma Gandhi's influence transcended the borders of India, leaving an indelible mark on the global stage. His philosophy of nonviolence, truth, and civil disobedience, often referred to as Satyagraha, resonated with individuals and movements worldwide. Gandhi's impact extended to civil rights struggles in the United States, anti-apartheid activism in South Africa, and inspired iconic leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Influence in the United States. Gandhi's influence on the American civil rights movement was profound. Martin Luther King Jr., a towering figure in the American civil rights struggle, was inspired by Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance. King studied Gandhi's writings and adapted his principles to the American context. The civil rights movement, led by King, embraced nonviolent protests, sit-ins, and marches to challenge racial segregation and discrimination. Gandhi's influence was evident in King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech, where he articulated a vision of racial equality and justice. Impact on anti-apartheid activism in South Africa. Gandhi's early experiences in South Africa, where he first developed his philosophy of nonviolence and civil disobedience, also had a lasting impact on the anti-apartheid movement in that country. Leaders like Albertina Sisulu and Desmond Tutu drew inspiration from Gandhi's principles as they fought against the oppressive apartheid regime. The South African struggle for freedom and equality adopted nonviolent resistance tactics, reflecting the enduring influence of Gandhi's methods. Influence on Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, South Africa's first black president and a global symbol of resistance to apartheid, acknowledged Gandhi's influence on his own activism. While imprisoned on Robben Island, Mandela read Gandhi's writings and saw parallels between India's struggle for independence and South Africa's fight against apartheid. Mandela's commitment to reconciliation and nonviolence after his release was inspired, in part, by Gandhi's philosophy. He once stated, "The Gandhian influence dominated freedom struggles on the African continent right up to the 1960s because of the power it generated and the unity it forged among the apparently powerless." Legacy beyond movements. Gandhi's influence extended far beyond the realms of political activism. His philosophy of nonviolence and his emphasis on the moral dimensions of political struggle inspired human rights movements, environmental campaigns, and social justice initiatives globally. His commitment to simplicity, sustainable living, and economic self-sufficiency resonated with movements advocating for environmental conservation and sustainable development. Legacy in modern India. The legacy of Mahatma Gandhi in modern India is profound and enduring, and his influence continues to shape the nation's culture, politics, and values. Gandhi's birthday, October 2nd, is celebrated as Gandhi Jayanti, a national holiday that serves as a poignant reminder of his enduring impact on the country. Gandhi Jayanti and commemoration. Gandhi Jayanti is not merely a day off from work. It is a day of reflection, remembrance, and action. On this day, Indians across the country pay homage to the father of the nation by participating in various activities, including prayer meetings, communal service, and educational programs. Gandhi's favorite devotional song, Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, is sung in his memory, and his iconic spinning wheel, or charkha, is often displayed as a symbol of self-reliance and economic empowerment. Gandhi's image in Indian culture. Gandhi's image is deeply ingrained in Indian culture. His distinctive appearance, characterized by his round glasses, bald head, and simple attire, is instantly recognizable. His image is commonly displayed in homes, government offices, and public spaces across India. His spectacles and charkha have become enduring symbols of his principles of simplicity, self-sufficiency, and truth. Political ideals and influence. Gandhi's political ideals of nonviolence, civil disobedience, and Satyagraha continue to resonate in Indian politics. Political leaders often invoke his name and his principles when advocating for social justice, communal harmony, and ethical governance. Gandhi's emphasis on grassroots activism and community engagement remains relevant in contemporary Indian politics. Social justice and activism. Gandhi's advocacy for social justice and the upliftment of marginalized communities, particularly the Dalits, formerly known as untouchables, continues to inspire social reformers and activists. His efforts to eradicate untouchability and promote equality laid the foundation for affirmative action policies in India. Economic and environmental sustainability. Gandhi's ideas on economic self-sufficiency, sustainable living, and the promotion of khadi, handspun, and handwoven cloth continue to influence India's economic and environmental policies. Concepts like Swadeshi, buying local, and self-reliance are woven into discussions on economic development and environmental conservation. International diplomacy. Gandhi's legacy also extends to India's foreign policy and diplomacy. India's commitment to non-alignment during the Cold War era, championed by leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru, was influenced by Gandhi's principles of nonviolence and cooperation among nations. Continued relevance. Mahatma Gandhi's teachings continue to be profoundly relevant in the 21st century, offering valuable insights and guidance on a range of critical issues, including social justice, environmental sustainability, and peaceful conflict resolution. His principles of truth, nonviolence, and moral leadership provide a timeless framework for addressing contemporary challenges. 1. Social justice. Gandhi's commitment to social justice remains a beacon in addressing inequalities and discrimination. In the 21st century, societies around the world grapple with issues of racial, gender, and economic injustice. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence and his advocacy for the rights of marginalized communities, such as the Dalits in India, inspire movements for equity and inclusivity. His emphasis on empathy, compassion, and the eradication of untouchability serves as a model for dismantling deeply ingrained prejudices and promoting social harmony. 2. Environmental sustainability. Gandhi's principles of simplicity, self-sufficiency, and sustainable living are highly relevant in the context of environmental challenges. As the world faces pressing issues like climate change and resource depletion, Gandhi's emphasis on reducing consumption, promoting local industries, Swadeshi, and valuing nature's resources align with the goals of sustainability. His concept of trusteeship, where individuals are stewards of the Earth's resources rather than exploiters, resonates with contemporary environmental ethics. 3. Peaceful conflict resolution. In an era marked by international tensions and conflicts, Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance, Satyagraha, offers a path to peaceful conflict resolution. His methods of civil disobedience, dialogue, and mediation emphasize the power of nonviolence in achieving political and social change. Leaders and activists worldwide, from Martin Luther King Jr. to Nobel Peace Laureates, have drawn inspiration from Gandhi's approach to peaceful resistance. 4. Moral leadership. Gandhi's emphasis on moral leadership is particularly relevant in an age when trust in leaders is often questioned. His unwavering commitment to truth, transparency, and humility sets a high standard for ethical leadership. Gandhi believed that leaders should lead by example, living the values they advocate. In a world marked by political and ethical challenges, his principles offer a roadmap for ethical governance and leadership. 5. Global relevance. Gandhi's teachings have transcended national borders and resonate with individuals and movements globally. His influence is evident in civil rights struggles, human rights movements, and campaigns for social justice worldwide. Leaders like Nelson Mandela, who followed the path of nonviolence in dismantling apartheid, and environmental activists who champion sustainable living draw inspiration from Gandhi's philosophy. Gandhi's writings. Mahatma Gandhi was not only a remarkable leader and activist, but also a prolific writer whose works provide profound insights into his thoughts, philosophy, and the evolution of his ideas. Among his most significant literary contributions is his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, which offers a candid and introspective account of his life and principles. The Story of My Experiments with Truth. Gandhi's autobiography is a deeply personal narrative that traces his journey from his early years in Porbandar to his experiences in South Africa and his leadership in India's struggle for independence. In this work, Gandhi reflects on his experiments with various aspects of life, including truth, nonviolence, simplicity, and spirituality. He lays bare his own struggles, doubts, and moments of transformation, making it a remarkable document of self-discovery and personal growth. One of the central themes of this autobiography is Gandhi's relentless pursuit of truth, which he called Satyagraha, or truth force. He believed that truth was the ultimate weapon for challenging injustice and oppression. His writings in the Autobiography demonstrate how he sought to align his life with his principles, even at great personal cost. Other writings. In addition to his autobiography, Gandhi authored numerous essays, letters, and books on a wide range of subjects, including politics, religion, education, and social reform. Some of his notable works include Hind Swaraj, a critique of modern civilization and an exploration of India's path to self-rule, and The Moral Basis of Vegetarianism, where he expounds on the ethical reasons for adopting a vegetarian lifestyle. Gandhi's writings also encompassed his views on economic self-sufficiency, village industries, and the promotion of khedi, hand-spun and hand-woven cloth, as symbols of self-reliance and empowerment for rural India. He believed that economic independence was essential for political freedom and advocated for the revival of India's cottage industries, philosophy, and values. Through his writings, Gandhi elucidated his core principles of truth, satya, nonviolence, ahimsa, and self-discipline, brahmacharya. He explored the spiritual dimensions of these principles and their practical applications in the pursuit of justice and freedom. His writings reveal his deep engagement with religious texts and his belief in the unity of all religions. Gandhi's commitment to simplicity, humility, and communal harmony is evident throughout his writings. He advocated for the eradication of untouchability, gender equality, and social justice, themes that resonate with contemporary discussions on inclusivity and social reform. Legacy of Gandhi's writings. Gandhi's writings continue to be studied, debated, and celebrated worldwide. They serve as a rich source of inspiration for scholars, activists, and leaders seeking to understand the power of nonviolence, moral leadership, and the pursuit of truth in the face of adversity. His writings provide a roadmap for individuals and societies striving for justice, equality, and a more ethical and sustainable world. Gandhi's spiritual journey. Mahatma Gandhi's spiritual journey was a profound and transformative aspect of his life, influencing his political and social actions in profound ways. His commitment to spiritual principles such as truth, non-possessiveness, and humility played a central role in shaping his philosophy and guiding his actions. 1. Commitment to truth, satya. Gandhi's unwavering commitment to truth, or satya, was the cornerstone of his philosophy and actions. He believed that truth was the highest virtue and that individuals should always strive to align their thoughts, words, and deeds with truth. This commitment to truth guided his nonviolent resistance movements, as he believed that only truth could overcome oppression and injustice. In his autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, Gandhi candidly explored his own struggles and failures in living up to his ideal of truth. His willingness to admit his shortcomings and continually strive for truthfulness made him a relatable and inspiring figure. 2. Non-possessiveness, non-attachment, or aparigraha. Gandhi's philosophy included a profound sense of non-possessiveness, or non-attachment, known as aparigraha. He believed that individuals should minimize their material possessions and live a simple, austere life. This principle influenced his own lifestyle, characterized by minimalism, the use of handmade and homemade goods, and a rejection of extravagance. Gandhi's commitment to non-possessiveness extended to his political and social actions. He advocated for economic self-sufficiency at the village level, encouraging the revival of local cottage industries. His emphasis on self-reliance was rooted in his belief that dependence on material possessions and consumerism led to moral decay and social inequality. 3. Humility and service, seva. Humility and selfless service, or seva, were essential elements of Gandhi's spiritual journey. He believed that true leadership was about serving others and that individuals should approach life with humility and a sense of duty to society. Gandhi's own lifestyle reflected this commitment to simplicity and service. Throughout his life, Gandhi actively engaged in social and humanitarian work. He worked tirelessly for the welfare of the marginalized and oppressed, including the Dalits, formerly untouchables, and championed their rights and dignity. His humility and commitment to service inspired countless individuals to join the struggle for justice and equality. 4. Interfaith harmony and religious tolerance. Gandhi's spiritual journey also encompassed his belief in the unity of all religions. He drew inspiration from various religious traditions, including Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and Jainism. He saw common threads of truth, compassion, and nonviolence in these religions, and advocated for interfaith harmony and religious tolerance. This belief in religious pluralism influenced his approach to political and social issues. Gandhi saw religion as a source of strength for social reform and believed that individuals of different faiths could work together for the common good.